When we work with clients in a second marriage, we find that it's more common that one or both spouses have children from prior relationships or they have assets they accumulated prior to the marriage. And this can make the planning a little bit more complicated. Usually they want to take care of each other, but there's also this sense of what's mine should go to my children and what's theirs should go to their children. So today I'm going to talk about three of the big reasons why it's important that blended families have a great estate plan in place. First, there's what's called the spousal allowance. What the spousal allowance means is your surviving spouse is entitled to a minimum of the first $60,000 from your estate. And that money goes to them directly. It's theirs to use and spend however they choose to, and it's theirs to leave to whomever they choose to. The only way to avoid the spousal allowance is with a properly executed prenuptial agreement or postnuptial agreement. Second, there's what's called the elective share rules in North Carolina. When you pass away, your surviving spouse has the ability to claim a certain portion of the estate. They have to do this within 6 months of your death, and it's not automatic. They have to come forward and claim it, which is why it's called an elective share. They're electing to claim it. The amount of the share is based on the length of the marriage, from as low as 15% of the estate for a marriage of 5 years or less to as much as 50% of the estate for marriages of 15 years or longer. Now, there are a few ways to get around the elective share issue or to plan with the elective share issue. You can waive your rights to the elective share via prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement. If that's not an option, then within your estate plan, we can put some protections around that elective share, because otherwise, if your spouse comes forward and claims that elective share, that money becomes theirs. They spend it how they want and they leave it to whomever they want, which means it may not go to your children. So with planning, we can have that elective share protected. We can put a little bit more control over how the funds can be used, and we can make sure that when your spouse passes away, anything that's remaining still has to go to your children and doesn't end up with any other beneficiaries. Third, there's this issue we call accidental disinheritance in our office. It's very common and it's very easy to fall into this trap. A lot of couples in second marriages still want to take care of each other. And so they'll set up an estate plan that says, I leave everything to my spouse, and then when my spouse is gone, anything that's left should go to my children. Well, the problem is, once it goes to your spouse, when your spouse passes away, those funds are going to go through your spouse's estate plan, which means the funds usually end up with your stepchildren rather than your own children. And this is how your children end up disinherited by accident. The good news is that with proper planning, we can avoid that. There are ways that we can structure your plan to set aside the funds, make sure your spouse is taken care of, but when your spouse passes away, those funds are protected and they have to go back to your children the way you intended. Listen, I get that this is a lot of information to take in, and it can be kind of stressful to think about balancing taking care of your spouse and taking care of your children. This is something we do all the time in our office. We've worked with many blended families to help them work through these issues and conversations. Give our office a call and we'll help you figure out the right planning options for your family's unique situation.